Alright, MCU fans, the Doctor is in, and he's taking new patients. At least that's what all signs seem to be pointing to with the follow-up to Avengers Infinity War. Yes, we all saw Doctor Strange turn to dust faster than someone drinking the wrong chalice in the Church of the Canyon of the Crescent Moon.
He chose poorly.
But he's not really gone, is he? And no, we don't mean he's not gone as long as we remember him. We mean he's actually coming back in the final battle against Thanos. And we believe Doctor Strange has been hinting at this master plan for a long time. Join ScreenRant as we theorize how the Sorcerer Supreme is in complete control of the events of Avengers Endgame. The Marvel Studios creative team are trying to keep their cards as close to the vest as possible. But before they go all gambit on us and throw their exploding deck at us with Avengers Endgame, let's try and get ahead of them with some theorizing. And let's just set the record straight, because Doctor Strange is definitely going to use his mind-altering powers to, well, blow our minds in this Infinity War sequel. But how can you predict the moves of a time-traveling mystic with a magic cape and a perfectly shaped goatee? Well, we need to examine all the tea leaves and breadcrumbs that the Marvel Studios creative team has laid out for us. Even though they say that Doctor Strange isn't in this movie because he, turned into sand and got whisked away by a nice Titan breeze, we know for dang sure that they aren't making a new Avengers film without one of their biggest stars. A single look at the cast list shows that Benedict Cumberbatch has a crew of people assigned to him for Endgame. So definitely don't count him out. IMDb knows all. And even the credits that are not listed on IMDb still tell us what to expect in the finished movie. Since we know Benedict Cumberbatch is appearing in it, and we know the Marvel team doesn't necessarily want the less-than-diehard fans to be aware Doctor Strange is going to be in the movie, we have to assume Marvel thinks that sharing the fact that he appears in it is a spoiler in and of itself, even if his appearance were to be handled in flashback form, which it probably is not. And we also have to assume that, given Marvel doesn't want us to know he's in the movie, Doctor Strange has a massive part to play. Face it, Strange is the key to putting the good guys' plan into action, and Strange's power is the only antidote available to counteract Thanos' brute force. Besides, Tom Holland is listed on IMDb as appearing in Endgame, and we all watched him become Soil as well. So, if Marvel feels comfortable saying Peter Parker will be back, but doesn't feel right saying that Stephen Strange will return, then they likely have some massive plans hidden under that cloak of levitation. Some fans even point to a theory publicized by Redditor Mighty Mary 007, an eagle-eyed viewer who noticed that all was not right with the Avengers Endgame Super Bowl trailer. By now, you're all well aware that Marvel has been editing their trailers to be purposefully misleading. And if you haven't figured it out already, wake up, sheeple! The Russo brothers even said it themselves that pre-release footage and promotional materials have been altered to take fans off their guard, and keep them from figuring out the way the actual events in the finished movie play out. Personally, we love the idea. It keeps some of us from piecing together the complete plot before the movie actually comes out. Hey, we still like to be surprised sometimes too, okay? Anyway, the Redditor noticed one particular shot in the Super Bowl trailer that had many of the surviving characters standing together, side by side, except for a notable space between two of the people on screen. Could this space be big enough for Doctor Strange to stand within? We think so. The Redditor goes on to theorize that Strange not only was able to view each possible future while in that weird meditative state on Titan, but he was actually traveling to each possible permutation, living through every Endgame scenario. Each lightning-fast twitch was actually a physical response to his body jumping into the future, and then instantaneously jumping back to the events of the then-present Infinity War climax.
Went forward in time to view alternate futures.
If that is in fact the case, then Doctor Strange may have lived through all of the events of Endgame and even seen that movie's final moments. And on another note, that just means he's playing through the events like they're an entirely new experience, conning us all while knowing full well that the Avengers end up saving the day. At least that's how we hope it all ends, with a happy conclusion proving that Strange may have been the most important Avenger of all. Look, we know there's going to be a Doctor Strange too, and it's probably not going to be a Captain Marvel 90s era flashback to a time when Strange was alive pre-dusting. Plus, he didn't even have his powers before the events of the first film anyway. We strongly believe Benedict Cumberbatch's portrayal of Doctor Strange represents much of the future of the MCU. He'll be kept busy throughout Marvel's fourth phase, and he'll likely work closely with Captain Marvel and Spider-Man as the next generation of leaders of the Avengers. So expect those dusted characters to bust on out of the confines of the Soul Stone and have some important character development along the way. For instance, Peter Parker and Stephen Strange need to become better friends to justify all the behind-the-scenes gossip that Spider-Man will appear in Doctor Strange 2.
I'm Peter, by the way.
Doctor Strange.
Oh, you're using made-up names.
Plus, with a villain like Mysterio, a master illusionist, in Spider-Man 2, who better to help Spider-Man take on such a character than the Sorcerer Supreme himself? Beyond the sequel appearances, we're pretty sure that this film will hinge heavily on time travel, and we believe that not only will Doctor Strange's abilities be essential in defeating Thanos, they'll also help clean up some of the extra convenient moments and gripe-worthy plot holes from the MCU's earlier installments. Yes, we're hedging a lot on the belief that the time travel will be a huge part of Avengers Endgame.
Endless looped time.
But frankly, the possibilities are too good for the MCU creative team to pass up. Look, they changed the game before. It wasn't until the first Avengers in 2012 that a comic book film adaptation was able to successfully incorporate invading aliens, intergalactic monsters, and other sci-fi elements to a capes-and-tights superhero adventure. Before that movie, most critics would have said that general audiences were not ready to mix their genres like that. But now, after the first Avengers, we accept so many more storytelling risks in our standard superhero flicks. So with Endgame, we know that the Marvel Studio team will go big, because they aren't going home. One of the big issues fans think time traveling will help is providing more of a justification behind Hank Pym giving the Ant-Man suit to Scott Lang. We all can generally agree that Hank Pym's daughter was entirely capable of taking up the mantle herself. Look, maybe some part of Hank was concerned for his daughter's safety, but Hank barely knows Scott when the man becomes the next Ant-Man. Some fans think that a time-traveling event could inform Hank that only someone like Scott would possibly be right for the Ant-Man role, especially once a threat like Thanos would eventually surface. It's also been previously theorized that the Avengers might decide to go back to the events of their fateful 2012 film. Perhaps they'll decide to travel back to the Battle of New York to face Thanos in the past, before he got the gauntlet. The only problem is, if they lose to Thanos, he might be prepared to defeat them once this updated timeline moves forward to the events of Infinity War. Either way, big things are happening in Endgame. We'll see crazy and exciting new places, and Strange is the guy to get us there. Mordo and the Ancient One saw something promising in Stephen Strange, and decided that this cocky doctor was the right guy for the team. Sure, he was a brilliant surgeon and he eventually had the right mindset to become a perfectly well-adjusted Sorcerer Supreme, but was there something else they saw in him? The Ancient One had previously used the powers of the Eye of Agamotto to manipulate time. In the first Doctor Strange film, the Ancient One divulges that she couldn't look into the future and see beyond the point in time where she died. But perhaps she was able to see Doctor Strange and truly understand his importance when the future version of himself traveled back in time. You know, to a period where she was still alive. Whether or not the Ancient One was aware of the part Strange would play in the fight against Thanos, this idea takes us back to the events at the end of Infinity War. If Stephen Strange can look into the future and see a multitude of infinite possible futures, there is a strong chance Stephen will survive this outing, even though he may have been busted and dusted by Thanos' snap at the end of the previous movie. Strange's ability to see possible timelines beyond the snap means that there's a strong chance many fans' collective theory is correct. That Thanos' snap didn't end the lives of everyone who dusted away. Instead, it transferred their souls, essences, whatever else, into Thanos' Soul Stone. And much like Gamora, half of the living universe is trapped inside that stone, waiting to be set free. On another note, Doctor Strange is incredibly good at hiding and distracting, so it's entirely possible that Strange created a copy of himself as he did during the fight against Thanos on Titan. Knowing he'd need to stay off of Thanos' radar, Strange could have made it appear as if he was dusted away like the others, when in fact his real self slipped into another dimension of space-time to further investigate ways to defeat the interstellar villain. Although this scenario would likely require a lot of exposition and flashbacks to fully explain its plot twisty, we know it's not necessarily outside of the good doctor's wheelhouse. But obviously, he's not going to be able to undo Thanos' evil deeds without help, especially from those who are probably trapped inside the Soul Stone. Getting the literal upper hand against the wearer of the gauntlet isn't just a matter of catching all the special gems like some kind of intergalactic Pokemon trainer. Sure, collecting them all means you have a pretty powerful gloved hand that allows you to fundamentally alter half of the life in the universe, but the characters who previously obtained the stones say a lot about the individual gems as well. Loki, Vision, Gamora, Doctor Strange, and Star-Lord each have special connections to the Space Stone, the Mind Stone, the Soul Stone, the Power Stone, and the Time Stone respectively, due to their personal interactions with the stones in previous MCU films. Each of these bearers of the stones died or seemingly died in Infinity War, which again is a great fake-out on the part of Marvel Studios if they are all in fact brought back for a final showdown with Thanos. Maybe the key to bringing these characters back lies within the individual stones. They, like Sauron's One Ring in The Lord of the Rings, could have some loyalty to the heroes who initially had some semblance control over them, before Thanos violently seized the stones for himself. The Infinity Stones are ancient forces that we don't entirely understand, so they could have some degree of self-determination and may be able to even think for themselves. Heck, it's Marvel's story to tell, so they can ultimately do whatever they need the stones to do in order to neatly close out this particularly epic MCU tale. Just remember that no matter who proves to be the linchpin in overthrowing Thanos, the key to victory is hidden in Doctor Strange's mind. After all, in Infinity War, Doctor Strange is the one character who foretold the title of the follow-up film, Endgame. If Endgame is a climax of everything we've come to know and love about the MCU, and Doctor Strange was at least subconsciously aware of the coming apocalypse, then the filmmakers are foreshadowing the final moments of this phase with Strange's line,
We're in the endgame now.
Endgame will have some victory with some tragedy, but most likely it'll leave us wanting more. What will it mean for Doctor Strange? And how about the other characters that we've come to know and love? And even more interestingly, how will this all lead to the next phase of the MCU? Will it incorporate other newly available characters thanks to the Fox-Disney merger? Characters like the X-Men and the Fantastic Four? Only time will tell. And in the hands of a time-manipulating Doctor Strange, the future's looking pretty entertaining. Do you think there's more to Strange than meets the eye? Or are there other characters that we've overlooked? Let us know in the comments section below, and subscribe to ScreenRant for more time-bending theories just like this one. We'll see you around.